Welcome to a realm where personal growth meets expansive spirituality and where we're not just scratching the surface. We're diving deep, widening our perspectives, and having a darn good time doing it. This is the Enliven Podcast, and I am your host, Jen Hamilton. You'll enjoy an infusion of motivation, empowerment, and inspiration that will resonate in every aspect of your life. Expect captivating stories, heartfelt musings, and my own personal experiences. But that's not all. I'm bringing awe-inspiring individuals to the table, so get ready to meet some remarkable souls whose wisdom and stories will leave you spellbound. No topic is off limits here. Brace yourself for raw authenticity, unfiltered vulnerability, and yes, the occasional splash of explicit language. We're delving into the realms of the esoteric, mystical, and the woo-woo, unafraid to explore the extraordinary. So if you are ready to venture beyond the surface, to explore the depths of your soul, and to awaken the magic of life, if your heart says yes, then hit that play button and let the Enliven Podcast guide you on this remarkable expedition. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enliven Podcast. I am your host, Jen, and my very special guest today is Daniel Lawson. From corporate strategist to founder of a unique lifestyle brand, Daniel's journey from creating Parallaxx Apparel to Parallax Transformations charts a daring path of redefining success. He paved the Adventurepreneur coaching niche, blending adventure and entrepreneurship to spark profound transformations. As the author of The 3 Toxic Lies That Keep You Busy, Stressed, and Unfulfilled, Daniel challenges hustle culture norms and our perception of time. His unique approach empowers high-performing CEOs and entrepreneurs to confront their mediocrity and, in doing so, find their edge in the relentless pursuit of having it all. Beyond coaching, Daniel delivers transformative retreats on global paradises, shattering paradigms and instilling new perspectives, helping others redefine their realities. Daniel's journey underlines his distinctive authority as a guide in the relentless pursuit of holistic success. I know you're going to absolutely love this episode, so without further ado, let's dive in. Daniel, welcome to the Enliven Podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's awesome. I love coming and hanging out with people like yourself and having these wonderful conversations. Just lights me up so much. It's such a good time.
That's so good. Now, where in the world are you?
Oh wow, where am I now? Dominican Republic. So arrived about a week and a half ago. Came to facilitate an epic retreat with solar sales professionals and bosses from the United States who came down and been doing a lot of mindset and heartset coaching in the sales industry, which has been super exciting. In Las Terrenas in Dominican Republic, yeah.
Look, I'm not going to lie. It sounds like a really tough place to be. You poor thing, having to be in the Dominican Republic, doing retreats and stuff. It must be hard.
You know what? I realized there's a lot of challenges. I'm not going to share the challenges. Well, maybe we can. We could go down that route. But you know what? I realized I was doing this this one facilitation. We're on the back of a yacht out in the not the Caribbean. Sorry. Now get it right. In the Caribbean, out on the back of the yacht, and I was like, wow, this is beyond a dream, and it was incredible. Like I was sitting there with my beautiful girlfriend, and we're like pinching each other, going, have we really created this life now? And so super grateful to be hanging out with the epic people creating epic outcomes and just really rocking forth in service and growing and developing along the way.
That is cool. Now, you're a peak performance coach. Obviously, you do like amazing things, hosting retreats in, the most glorious of places in this world. What is it that you actually do? Tell us about the magic that you bring to the world, Daniel.
Yeah, such a good question. Peak performance coaching, for me, I think a lot of people call themselves peak performance coaching. From my understanding, there's different avenues that you can take and different areas to focus on. One of the things, and it's kind of fitting, I think, was it today or yesterday was International Mental Health Day. And I think a lot of people focus on mental health. And it's fantastic. We need it, and specifically within mindset. Mindset coaching seems to be the buzzword and the entry into personal development. Mindset coaching is really important. I guess it kind of starts there. It's the psychology that allows us to give us motivation to dream bigger, to go on the journey or start the journey, to discover who it is that we are, what we're made of, and really take action to create a life, in my opinion, to create a life to fall in love with. And the direction that I come from is to really have it all. We need so much more than just mindset. So mindset is really only 25% of one of the four internal or interior empires that I'd coach through in peak performance. So the other three is the other main one that's probably makes up a good chunk, maybe half, if not more, of the work that I do with my clients who I work with is the heart set. And so the heart set is all
Mm.
about the emotionality. And so the way that I'll describe this is going, even if you had the best mindset in the world, if you're carrying around, which most people are on some degree, a level of resentment or grief or sadness or internal frustration or anger, no matter how good your mindset is, you're never going to live a happy, fulfilled life with contentment, love, and care, and to make us feel like everyone's full, able, complete human beings, but not realizing it. And so I think it's just such an important element, seeing people's lives shift as a result of tapping into that part. And then, of course, we got the health set. Health set's really important to change the world or to really make an impact in the world. We need to be in it for the long game, and dead people don't change the world. So we got to stay with it. And then the fourth being soul set, and that's really connecting in with who it is that we are and what our true essential self is and what the internal voice is calling us to be and where we want to go. I believe that's where the true passion and meaning comes from, is when we live in alignment with that part of ourselves.
Oh, wow. I love it. And yes, you're speaking directly to my soul about all of this stuff. We're definitely on the same page there. Daniel, tell us about the story about how you even got into this. Was it something like, did you sort of have an experience in your life that was sort of a major catalyst to wake you up and do this work? Or how did this even come into your field?
Yeah, it's a long story, but it's for me it's a very passionate story, and I'll keep it to the highlights for the benefits of time here. Through my 20s, I suppose, with a lot of 20-year-old males, I was thinking, I don't need a coach. I don't need someone to tell me how to live my life or what to do. And I thought coaching was someone just doing exactly that and handing out advice. So I really didn't like that. I didn't like the idea of personal development. And I guess the environment that I grew up in, the idea of self-help or personal development would have meant weakness and failure. So definitely wasn't going to look down that route. But getting into my 30s, and then I started a business, my water sports apparel brand, and that's when I started figuring out or realizing that I didn't have all my shit figured out. I think entrepreneurship is a really great insight into the soul or into yourself to go, wow, there's a lot of challenges within this, and I can have all the information, all the strategies, and all the know-how, like directions of what to do, but I'm not doing it, or something's holding me back. And that's where I discovered personal development and then coaching by mistake. And I was like, the person that I bumped into, he really, I felt like he looked into my soul and allowed me to say yes to me. And so I went on this personal development journey, and I I didn't want to pay for coaching, so I paid for like what do you call it, like professional coach development training. So I thought, well, if I'm going to go and get coaching, I may as well learn how to do it for myself, because that was just where I think it was great. But through that time, and then it wasn't long after, it was about a year later, we're going through COVID, and there's a lot of challenges people were facing. And in that time, my business was going upwards. I was getting really great results. I was sharing the different ideas, and people were like, wow, what is it that you're doing? Tell me more. And I just happened to fall into the space of coaching others, and others were going, Dan, I love you as my coach. Or they started calling me their coach. I was like, oh, I don't know. Don't know how I feel about that. I couldn't be a coach. But as it turned out, my coaching was more successful than my water sports apparel brand. And I continued on the journey, did some more personal development work. And then I was brave enough and vulnerable enough to start calling myself a coach. And it sort of started from there. I went through, initially I started out in emerging entrepreneurship coaching for lifestyle business, and that was awesome. Then through my own discoveries, I went through an emotional intimacy type style of coaching, especially for men, and that really reflected my own personal development there. And then more recently, it's been the peak performance coaching. So it's kind of a reiteration or a combination, of combining of what I've been learning and developing over the last few years. And so I love that now, as my own development, I get to hang out with high six and seven figure entrepreneurs, and that are far more successful in business than myself, but I still got immense value to add into their lives. And I think it's awesome. They say surround yourself with the people that you want to become, and that's my way of doing it. I get to do it in my profession and get paid for it. So I love that.
It's so true. And yeah, really acknowledging you and just honoring you for being on that journey. And isn't it interesting that you and I have sort of very similar stories where I started off doing hypnotherapy and psychotherapy, and then I stepped into NLP and NLP masters, which then led into my life coaching certificate. And it was like, well, when I was doing hypnotherapy and psychotherapy, it was all about, learning how to help other people, which is what the modality is all about. When it came time to do NLP, it was all self-reflection. So I had to do all the
Mm.
work on myself first, which I did not sign up for. And I had like the most wildest breakdown through it because I didn't realize just how much I needed the work on myself. And it was through that breakdown and having to pick up all of the shattered pieces off the floor that I realized, okay, I get it now. I can help people on a level that I couldn't have helped people on before because I was in it. I was in it to help people, but I didn't even know how to help myself through it. It was like, oh, well, I'll just bypass all of my own shit that I'm going through by helping other people. And then, yeah, once NLP had come along, it was like, okay, I've got to look at my own shadow stuff here. And that's been such an incredible part of my journey as well.
Yeah, it's so important. I don't think the coaching industry in itself is doing enough of that. I think if there was one message that I'd share with the coaching industry is, practice and implement what it is that we're supposedly sharing or teaching or coaching through. Because I don't know, the coaching industry doesn't have a great name, especially if you go somewhere like Bali and everyone's calling themselves a coach, and we all get painted with the same tar brush, so to speak. Like my girlfriend, she was like, "Oh, another coach." We met in Bali, judged me hugely for it, but I judged her for other things, and we laugh about it now. But I think not enough coaches are having this conversation with themselves. So it's really wonderful to hear that you've had that and you've been on that journey, because I think, oh, well, I know we can only help our clients as much as we've been able to help ourselves. And that's the level, the extent in which we can play at.
Yes, I feel like life coaches are like PTs from like 10 years ago. Remember how like we saw like the rise of personal trainers? Everyone did like their personal training course. Everyone just like kind of popped up as a PT, and I feel like that's then moved into life coaching. I'm also seeing it in breath work now as well. Everyone's a
Oh,
breath work
yes.
facilitator, and I love it. Like, don't get me wrong, we need people in these facilitator spaces doing that, but I
Mm.
also feel like it's a bit of a buzz thing. And for me, like I've done cacao facilitation training, which is include like one style of breath work in it. I wouldn't say I'm a breathwork practitioner by any means. Like it is
Mm.
such like breathwork for some people, it's a very shamanic experience. Yet there's, I could go on a tangent about how I feel about these big breathwork events that I see, but maybe we'll have that conversation another time. But
Yeah.
let's talk about what are you seeing like as far as your clients that you've got coming through to you? Obviously as you've evolved, your career has evolved, and so who you see as far as clients has evolved. The people that are coming to you now, so you've got, your big figure entrepreneurs, which is amazing. What are you seeing as some of the stuff that they're commonly coming to you with? Like what are you supporting people through that you're like, wow, this is a repeating pattern for a lot of people right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Really good question. My clients don't typically come to me. It's funny. Well, yeah, it's a strange conversation because my avatar is like a successful business owner that kind of has all this shit figured out, or so they would love to believe. They don't have problems. They don't have challenges. They
Mhm.
win, and they've got this relentless determination, pursuit of success, and want to have it all. And they've already got it all, but they want more, and they don't quite know what the more is, or what the next level, or how to get there. It's like have a glass ceiling, but they wouldn't necessarily say that. They're just like, I want a secret weapon to give me the edge over my competitors in business terrain. And so I'm not a business coach. And so they're looking at me often going, well, how do you know what the next thing is for me? And so it's kind of like my perception almost of what coaching was, but to the extreme now, which is funny. We get the clients that we kind of deserve, or who it is that we are, a reflection of ourselves. So I don't necessarily promote or talk about the challenges that my avatar has until afterwards. And so what like, if say my avatar was listening right now, I'd be saying, well, like, you've got this relentless determination, this relentless drive to have it all in life, but there's something holding you back. What we do know is, with this relentless drive and determination and showing up, it comes at a cost. And it comes usually, and the volatility, it comes at the cost of ourselves or our relationships or emotional stability. And so maybe you feel a deep inner loneliness with yourself, and that comes out in the form of compulsions or addictions, either mini addictions or more severe addictions. We know that when addictions are high, connections low, and so low in ourselves and low with others, or probably low with others, and then more importantly, low with ourselves. There's, or like, emotional challenge, whether it's stress or frustration or anger. And especially, like, most of my clients are males, that's who aligns, but I do love working with women as well, especially women in business. I think that's a really fun place to work in. That lights me up, seeing like women just badass women and going, taking charge, even with their like feminine attributes and how they do it. I love that. But still, it comes at a cost. And what I start noticing is, if we look at the two sides, there's the narcissistic type personalities of making it all about themselves. There is that. It's still a self-abandonment of emotions. And then the other side of it is, there could be the caretaking or people-pleasing tendencies as well. And that's also self-abandonment and self-neglect. And so whichever side we're coming from, it keeps coming up with going, okay, you've got the mindset. It's like what I mentioned before. You've got the mindset and you've got this relentless determination, drive. You can succeed in everything that it is that you're doing. And actually, who's a great example of this is, if you ever follow Andrew Tate, maybe a controversial topic, but do you know who Andrew Tate is? Yeah, okay, little
I
bit
know who Andrew
controversial.
Tate is, yeah.
And
A little
so
bit.
I think this is a really fantastic example. Like, I personally, if I can speak from my personal opinions, is I think he's incredible in terms of his mindset. And he's just so hardened in his mindset, and the success, and I'll put it in quotations, because external success of the car and the women's houses and the money and the empire that he's created. But it's a perfect example when it comes to emotionality. He talks about happiness is not a thing, depression's not a thing, emotions aren't real. He talks about, like, if one of his wives or girlfriends come to him and go, like, is upset, he's like, shut up, bitch. Like, just grow up and piss off, deal with your problems. Doesn't have any kind of emotionality or emotional, whether you call it emotional intimacy or emotional the responsiveness
Maturity?
to be there, maturity, all of those. Doesn't have any of that because his mindset suppressed it so much. And so I guess, like, I look at him as a model of my extreme client. I wouldn't probably want to coach him. It would be kind of a fun challenge, maybe. I don't know. Imagine if I won him over, allowed him to feel his emotions again.
Yeah, I do that as a coach. I'm always like, oh God, just let me have a crack at that. Like, let me
Yeah.
in there. Like,
The thing is, he doesn't want it, and my number one rule is, I'm not going to coach anyone that doesn't want to be coached. So, I only work with people that want to create change. Otherwise, it'll just ruin my life. There's just no point. I've gone through the phase of having clients that I'd rather pay to go away.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the common theme. And so, in order, going back to wrapping that up, is, in order to have it all in life, we need to stop settling. And I say we because I'm in this category as well. Is there's areas of life where tolerating mediocrity and settling for less, and often it's within relationships or within hobbies or personal interests, or just different parts that we haven't been focusing on. That's a lot of where it is that I'll go with my clients.
How did we get here? Why do we self-abandon? Why did we get to this mentality? Like, where did that stem from, in your professional opinion?
Well, the long answer and the short answer. to keep it, I suppose, succinct and on point. And if we go all the way back, and see, no one's exempt from having a part of ourselves that has been neglected. And so it's been, for everyone that I've spoken to, it's been taught. It's been modeled to us from a young age, from as young as 6 months, well, younger, like right from birth. And there's even science that's showing that it even happens in your mother's womb, depending on the environment. But all the way up until the age of about 7, there has been needs that weren't met. There will be boundaries that have been crossed. Have been emotions that have been trampled upon. And as a child, we don't know any better. All we see is our magical big people, our parents, that are gods to us, because if they were inferior or not capable in any kind of way in our childlike brain, that would mean death for us. We need them. So we need to make sure they're okay. And so if they're not okay, or they've responded in a way that we didn't expect, or in a way that we gave it a different meaning, it's our fault, basically, because that's the only way children can see it. They're perfect. Then we adapt to that. And so it might be really, really painful in a time where we were abandoned, we're neglected. And it could be as simple as just like, I had a client. This is actually a really great example. I had a client where she wasn't doing so well in business. She really wanted to up her business, but she was like self-sabotaging and blocking herself. And we went, and it was actually from NLP. It was like a timeline therapy, deep state repatterning type session. She didn't remember this until we went into that space and had this moment where she was drawing pictures for her parents, and her parents would put them on the fridge and say, oh, like, so nice, and give her all this love and belonging and her significance and her childlike self. So then one day she decided that she wanted even more and give like an amazing surprise to her parents. And so she got all her best pens and crayons out and drew them on the wall in the living room. And so a nice big picture on the white wall. As you can imagine, her parents weren't quite as happy as what she anticipated them to be. And so they kind of told her off, sent her to the room, and told her to think about what she'd done. But if we enter the child's mind, like what's going through her mind at the moment, it was just like, oh, like it don't have the same understanding as from the parents. So the parents are just doing the best that they can with what they know. But in that moment, the child's been literally abandoned and set aside or outcast from the tribe. And so in that moment, she was taught, or she made it mean at least, that don't put herself out there. Don't be thoughtful. Don't try to provide, or stay quiet and unseen. And so later on, 30 years later, or 30, 35 years later, she's still in business running that pattern, going, don't be seen, don't put yourself out there, don't do too much. Just stay safe and suppress those emotions, because you never want to feel that again. And so there's countless,
it's all
there's
in the
unlimited
subconscious mind, isn't it?
It is. There's unlimited examples of that. Whether it's a big deal or not, it was a big deal when it happened. And so it comes back to, I love the work around the self-esteem triad. There's needs, boundaries, and emotions. Those 3 things, that triad, those pillars, so much can be healed just through focusing on those 3 topics. And they're massive, but it's a lifelong journey, but it's just so transformative.
Yeah. One of the things that I went through myself a few years ago is I was wondering why I was going to bed at nighttime and I couldn't sleep. I'd be so tired and I was experiencing so much anxiousness or like the running thoughts. And I'd already been in personal development for a couple of years. So I had, really good awareness. And then one day it dropped in. I was like, hang on a second. When I was, inverted commas, naughty as a kid, I would get sent to my room and I was told, go to your room and think about what you've done wrong. So I would go to my room, which was my safe space, lie down on my bed, put my head on the pillow, think about what I'd done wrong. So I'd created this association with having to go to my room, to my bed, to think about what I'd done wrong. And then as an adult, I'm wondering why I can't fucking sleep at night, because I'm lying there thinking about all the things that I had done wrong in my day. And when I put those 2 things together, I was like, holy shit.
Wow. What a breakthrough. That's incredible. I wonder how many people that applies to. Wow, you'd never guess, right? Until you go and do the work.
Did you have that as a kid, Daniel? Were you ever told to go to your room and think about what you've done wrong?
What did I have? I think so. I think so. I didn't go necessarily to the bed. What did I do? Let's see. I was a very good boy growing up. Well, at least my mum thought I was. So I got like a wooden spoon on my hand or something. But like my mum was like I grew up in a house truck until I was 2 years old. She was like of hippie nature, the freedom kind of style. And so she was very loving and very caring. And I had a very free kind of lifestyle, which the awesome thing about that allowed me to, we had appropriate boundaries, but also had a lot of flexibility to figure out things for myself. And so she'd give me insights or advice, but then she'd let me go and make the bad decisions. So she would like, don't touch that, it's hot. I'll touch it and burn my finger. And she goes, well, I tried to help you, and then I learned. And after a while, I started realizing, it took a long time to start realizing, oh, mum's actually got some pretty good insights. Maybe I should listen to her.
Your mom sounds really cool. I like her. I like her. Let's circle around to the toxic hustle culture, because we see this a lot, especially when we're working with business owners, entrepreneurs, high performing adults. But
Mm,
there's still this culture around the hustle and
mm,
having to get stuff done. It's like everything is sped up. It's like we have to achieve more, do more, be more, experience more, and like quicker. And we have so much at our fingertips. Everything is so sped up right now. Everything is so fast. Where are we going with this?
yeah. There's there's a couple of different angles that I like to work from when tackling the subject. So I think from the surface, there's a lot to do with what we have created visual success to look like in the external world, success being the materialistic world, so capitalism and materialism and all these kind of things. Um, and I think it really ties into the emptiness that a lot of us will feel inside based on these unmet needs that it is that we're just talking about, or the the dark hole, some people call it, or like the treasure chest that's full of all the suppressed emotions and things that we're trying to run away from. I don't think anyone's exempt from it. So when we have this external gratification that can kind of bridge that, well, then we'll run towards that as opposed to actually go and feel the pain. Most people will do more to avoid pain than they will to seek pleasure. And so running away strategy is very real. And so what that causes in a lot of ways, and I know I'm cutting a lot of pieces out, but then that causes this hustle culture to go, all right, let's hustle and grind, face burnout, because that's still more comfortable than actually facing the truth. Facing our reality, I talk about that a lot, is I think facing our reality is one of the hardest things that we can do as humans. So again, it's a self-abandonment, it's a self-neglect strategy of going, I'm going to go and work myself into the ground rather than take care of myself. And self-care, people go, oh well, self-care, I'm going to sit in the bath and read a book and light some candles. I say, do you actually enjoy that? Like, not really, but I have to do self-care. I'm like, I have to do self-care, really? Okay. So, force yourself into doing something you don't like doing. Sounds beautiful. So it's I was taught, and so this is an example where like my mum didn't get it right. I shared this with her, and she was like, wow, I demonstrated that. It's I admire my mum as a single mum growing up, or raising two boys, my brother and I. She did really well, very little money. We had everything, all the necessities in life. So I had terrible money mindset, because it was all about only ever invest what it is that you need and nothing more, because we don't have anything more. But she also was very busy, and she hustled and grinded, did everything she needed to provide the bare necessities for my brother and I. And so I saw this growing up as going, okay, I need to be hustling and grinding. And if I'm not busy, it means I'm lazy. And I don't want the judgment from other people thinking that I'm lazy. So by the time I reached like 20, I felt like my life is running out. And I was like, wow, 20, 20, 23, 24. I'm like just starting life. And I feel like time is running out. I got to go and take all the opportunities I can, which is really crazy. That's what drew me. And I've discovered this applies to a lot of people as well, drew me into entrepreneurship. And so this whole lie of believing, okay, if I get into business, it means that I can leverage my time, I can get more money to get more time, and then I'll be happy. But it just made the matters worse. And I was like, oh shit, it becomes a vicious cycle. And so having more money and having more time doesn't necessarily equal more freedom, because freedom's not external, it's internal. And I still had the same old troubles and challenges coming up of the time mindset and the internal stresses that come with it.
It's so funny. There's this quote that goes around, and it's like, I left my 9 to 5 job to have a business where I now work 24/7.
That's true, isn't it? It's the case for so many, and it's sad. It's really sad, but it just seems like that is what people are choosing to do because they don't know any better still, or yet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's when, enter stage left, coaches like us come along and support them through that. So, Daniel, one of
Awesome.
the things that I like to do is to just be able to normalize us, as coaches and mentors. Sometimes our clients or people that follow us tend to put us on a pedestal, or we put ourselves on a pedestal because, we've got the tools to support ourselves. And I've certainly gone through this experience of bypassing where I thought, well, I've got the tools. I should know better than this, or I shouldn't be feeling this way because I've done the work, so really like deep in like the shadow side and the bypassing. I really just want to be able to normalize, us as humans having a life experience. So I'd
Mm.
love to hear from you. Anything that's present for you in your life that you're actually working through to, for anyone that might be thinking, oh my gosh, like Daniel works with these high profile people. He's done so much work. He's very inspiring. He's very wise. Let's like smack you right down off that pedestal. Tell us some of the things that you're working through on a personal level at the moment.
It it is so true. I think I feel that from other people for sure, that they put me on a pedestal, and I probably would have felt like in the past I would have liked to be on the pedestal, um, because like you get the significance and everything, and especially first starting out, it's probably a healthy journey to go on, and then to realize the maturity that this journey never stops. To be on a pedestal would almost be like I've arrived, which is totally not the case at all. It's the same. Like for me, it's kind of the same shit going over and over again for the next, but in the next levels of it. So like still I'd love to access more emotions. I'm so proud of how far I've come, but still feel really uncomfortable with many, like a display of real vulnerability. I'll do it from stage and I'll do it with certain people, but like still have challenge crying. Like I admire so much when I'm doing a facilitation and guys are in the audience crying, openly crying. I'm like, dude, I love that so much. I admire that so much in you, because I still feel challenge around that. Like that still, I don't feel uncomfortable for them, but I feel uncomfortable for myself for sure within that. Another one, I was just having a chat with someone on Facebook the other day. They were feeling like fearful about putting themselves out there, or not feeling good enough, I think it was. And I'm like, they're like, when does it go away? I'm like, I don't know whether it does go away. I totally have that still now. Like I'm about to launch a new program, or work with a new avatar, or go on stage. I'm like, what if they don't like me? Or like, what if I fail? Like, what if it doesn't work out? Like I've invested so much in this, and then what if something, and it's there, and I'm able to manage it, but it's still there. Um, what was another one? There was another one the other day as well. I think they're the main ones. Oh, the other one was so moving, even working with like really successful entrepreneurs and guys that are like very masculine driven and high performing, and they look like they've got it all figured out. I know logically they don't, but there's a part of me that goes, but I kind of think or feel that they're better than me. And so that really throws me off my game, rather than being able to stand in my own power of what it is that I know I've got. Yeah, I've got the demonstrated results and what it is that I help people with. So yeah, I think they're the main ones that I'm always working through, and I've got practices that I do and reminders, and I get a really wonderful partner that helps validate me when I'm down. And I think that's the best thing about relationships, is having a really, really like a relationship with my dreams. I worked so hard for to have that now, and my business success and personal success has gone through the roof as a result. I just, any guy that says, or anyone in business says, I don't have time for relationships because I'm too busy building a business. I'm like, I promise you, you work on your relationships, your business will skyrocket. It will have to.
Yes, it's so true, isn't it? Thank you so much for sharing. I would love to ask you as well, like, what is it that you see? Where do you see the world going? Like, it's kind of a loaded question. I mean, we've got a lot happening. We've got a lot of people doing the work on themselves. We've still got a lot of people bypassing. We've got the
Mm.
rise of AI. Well, what's your view of the world? Like, when you sort of think about the future, what do you see?
What do I see? I legitimately wonder whether the world's getting better or worse. It's a hard question for me to answer because as my awareness changes, I notice different things. And so I don't know whether the world is really changing or whether it's that I'm changing and I'm seeing the world differently. And so I know it doesn't really answer the question. It gives me hope. Like I feel like that our awareness, like where we are with humanity, we know more than what we've been known around emotional vulnerability, connection, psychology, how humans work. And it's being taught like it's never been taught before. We've got professionals in the space like we've never had before. It's being validated and normalized and researched by science. And so that's incredibly inspiring. And I think that's awesome. Like, I'm working with guys that are 23 and 25. And traditionally, people wouldn't find this work until like in their 50s or even be interested in, So I'm thinking a level of maturity for this work is getting quicker and getting faster maybe and being able to adapt to that. But then I do know that I think that there's a whole range of people out there that are going in the opposite direction as well. So honestly, I don't know. I choose to focus where it is that I know where I can have a positive impact and have a sense of influence and have set a model of demonstration and excellence where I can, and that's where I choose to focus. That's where I hang out, partly because that's where I know that I'm going to be able to help, but also that's going to really help me live a life that I love because the alternative is just not for me.
Yeah, I love that. I was reflecting on this the other day because I feel as though like everyone sort of talks about the great awakening, that we're
Mm,
experiencing, and it's not something, that just kind of comes lightly. And I personally don't believe that the great awakening is anything external to us. I believe it is such an internal experience. It's our own awakening. It's our own, you know, I feel as though we come to this life, we're born with human experience amnesia. That's what I call it. When we come in as a
mm,
baby, and it's part of our journey to potentially remember. I truly believe that we have free will, and that if we, choose things that aren't going to help us awaken, then that's okay too, because that's the path that we're on. And I feel as though we're going through this internal awakening, and through our own awakening we're supporting others to do the same, and it's by living what we feel aligned to, like what you were saying, you felt aligned to certain things, and it's going through those constant recalibrations to find your alignment, and things just click in, the relationship clicks in, the entrepreneurial spirit clicks in, the money clicks in, the clients come in. Like, when you're aligned to what it is that you're here to do, that's when
mm,
things start to just work out for you, and it's an internal feeling. And I truly feel as though the whole great awakening, we're only going to see it externally because it's shifting for ourselves internally. And I think I'm onto something here. Like, I think that's the work. I think this is why we do the work around, vulnerability, and we do the work around, emotions, and just being our most authentic selves, and helping other
mm.
people to do the same. I don't know if you're on the same page about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. A lot of, well, all of what you're saying, it totally makes sense to me. And so much of its perspective, like when we're talking about the Great Awakening, some people look at it very objectively or subjectively or spiritually, or they place their own filters on it or their own interpretations of it and twist it and distort it in different ways. I don't know whether it's good or bad. I don't think that has a really about bearing on it. It's just what suits them and where it is that they're at. So for me, what you're sharing totally makes sense because it's our distortion of what's happening that's based on our own experience and how it is that we're shaping our lives. So much of it for me, I love just coming back to the whole concept of awareness. When we create more awareness in our lives, we have a totally different perspective. My business is Parallaxx, and Parallaxx by definition is a it's a very technical term that's usually used in engineering or and web design or photography. When you change your perspective on objects, the objects appear to change. And I discovered this when I was transitioning from the corporate world into entrepreneurship. And I realized that I spent my whole 20s wishing and waiting and hoping and looking for opportunities. It wasn't until that I closed the door in the corporate world, I saw all the opportunities, like limitless opportunities. And I realized, it's the parallax effect. That's what it is. It's just I changed my perspective on life, and life, the whole world appeared differently. And so this is continually evolving. And I think it's great people talking about the Great Awakening. I know, like, the woke movement, and there's elements of it that seems a little bit either cheesy or a bit silly. I'm not really one to judge. I don't follow it too much, to be honest. But I'm just like, come on, well, that doesn't seem like necessarily a healthy or resourceful perspective in helping. But the more we're talking about it, the more awareness it's creating, and I hope it's creating more choice for people in the world. To then, it's the self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
It is. I totally agree. And sometimes I think to myself, like there's so much out there. It's like, if the whole universe exists inside of you, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, is this whole thing that I'm experiencing just a projection of my own mind? And is my own awakening realizing that it is all just me? Like it just circles right back into you, kind of like implode within yourself. And I get to a point where I'm like, la, 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 I don't want to know. I'm not done here. I'm not ready yet. Like for me, I'm assuming like that the level of consciousness and awareness that I have the assumption that it might have to do with that. But at the same time, I'm here having a human experience. And I think there's a lot of people, chasing that version of enlightenment. And the whole podcast that, we talk about this stuff is in life and the enlightened journey of life, because we're here to live life along the way. And when we have our own conscious experience within life, we get to make choices that are going to lead us to, doing retreats in the Dominican and having a beautiful relationship and being able to serve humanity in a way that actually, nourishes you and provides you with energy and fills your cup, as opposed to draining you, like, perhaps the corporate world does for some. And so this is why, like, we do the work, because of what it is that is on the other side of the fear, or on the other side of not being able to speak your truth and then learning how to speak your truth, and for me in my journey, like, it's an ongoing thing. That's why we call it a journey. It's not just something that just happens and you're healed and you're done and you're there, because life would be fucking boring.
I was going to say, how boring would that be to arrive? Geez, then what? May as well die. There's nothing left to do.
Exactly. And maybe that's what death is, though, is realizing that the whole thing was a dream, or that the whole thing was a game, or that, like, the whole thing was about how much, could you fit in and experience in this short time. And I often do an exercise with my clients where sometimes I get them to write their own eulogy, or sometimes I'll take them, forward in life to their deathbed. So they're on their deathbed at 105 years old, and getting them to reflect back on their life. And I'll say, like, what was sort of the key things. And, like, if you ask someone who's on their deathbed, what was your biggest takeaway from life, they're never going to say, I'm so glad I worked so much, or that I stressed over money or bills. Do you know what I mean? Or that, I stayed in that abusive, narcissistic relationship because I didn't know how to leave. It's only when we grant ourselves permission to, reflect forward, reflect backwards, that we realize, hang on a second, we are here for such a short time. What is it that we need to make sure that we're doing in our day to day and in our week, so that we do get to the deathbed, whenever that is, and be like, fuck yes, I had the best time. I created impact. I've learned so much along the way, and I'm done here.
That's so good. I really love what you said about when we die, we just look back, and that's when we realize that it was all just a game. And imagine that. I was just envisioning that. Imagine if I died and I look back and I'm like, it was just a game. I'd be questioning, did I play the game like to the best of my ability? Do I really show up? And because I'm a competitive kind of person, I'd be like, fuck, I didn't go hard enough in the game. And so that would really turn me on. If, like, we're having a session together and you got me to do that exercise, I'm like, hell yeah, I got to play this game. But also, yeah, like, what doesn't change tomorrow isn't going to change. What doesn't change today isn't going to change tomorrow. what we don't take responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for today isn't going to be any different tomorrow. Every moment, moment by moment, day by day, week by week, it's all needs to happen. Like, it doesn't all need to happen now, but something needs to change today for it to change tomorrow. And so you see so many people passing their life away going, oh yeah, tomorrow, or tomorrow never comes. It's today
Yeah.
that something changes.
We've only got today. There's this thing that was going around Instagram. You may have seen it. And it's like, imagine that you ripped the biggest bong. And when you finally come to, that's when you die. And you look around at the circle that you're sitting there ripping bongs with, like, whoa, my God, this trip that I just went on. And it was like your whole life.
I didn't see that, no, but yeah, I can imagine that one.
Imagine like getting, I guess, like back. Say, for example, we go back to the party we were at, where we were like, I don't know, smoking DMT, or like we ripped a massive bong or something, and then like this life is just a blink, right? But we live this whole experience, and then we come to, and you're like, oh fuck, I actually thought it was serious. Like I
Thought it
thought
was
I took it so seriously, and I was so in it, and I was so stressed, and I had no fucking clue that it was all a game, it was all a dream, it was all a lie. And oh my God, I need to go back there another time and just try and do it all over again, but better.
yeah. We're actually just walking home from dinner, my girlfriend and I. We're kind of having the opposite experience, or the opposite conversation of this, going, imagine if I woke up and all this was a dream, that I had a beautiful girlfriend with me, and we're out on the yacht, and we're facilitating in the Caribbean and doing all these things. And I was like, I was really helping people when I woke up, and I was really just this fat, lazy person that was wishing and hoping and everything for the world to change. I was like, oh man, that would be so sad. I don't know why we're having that conversation, but it's like the opposite. And I really love the power of having these visualizations, because as humans, we're the only real creature that has that self-awareness, that consciousness, that we can project ourselves into the corner of the room and look at ourselves in this moment. And there's so much power in being able to do this. I'd probably suggest doing it more in the empowering sense rather than the go, imagine that. But it really gave me a gratitude for this moment to realize, holy shit, I'm actually living my dream right now. And for me, that really helps, because it's very easy to pass moments by and go, oh, what about this? I just the perpetual cycle of wanting more. I can say, well, actually, in a lot of ways, I've more than arrived, or far surpassed where it is that I ever dreamed. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would have had not a single, like, even element of like a clue that this could be possible. And 3 years isn't a long time. It's gone by so quick. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited what's going to come next, the next 3 years or 10 years. Where am I going to be? Because we have this compounding effect, like, compounding interest. I love the idea of compounded learning, and where it is that we can go and leverage when it comes to these levels of self-awareness and self-discovery that we go on through what it is that we do,
Yeah.
and help.
I often think of that too. I'm like, geez, based on what I know now in a very short period of time, like the last 5 or 6 years since I really sort of stepped into learning and teaching in the personal development space, I'm like, I can't even begin to imagine what it's going to be like in another 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 years time. Maybe I'll be some kind of guru where people just fall at my feet and beg for wisdom. Like,
yeah. Well, I think what it is I certainly notice this when I get in a room full of people that have been on this journey longer than myself. Suddenly, I'm falling at their feet, begging them for the wisdom. And I'm like, wow. Or they share a piece of wisdom and it goes over my head or slaps me in the face. I'm like, wow, I didn't quite get that. And when I was first starting out, I kind of thought, oh, yeah, I've got a pretty good grasp on this. And then just level up the circle of people that I'm surrounding myself with. I'm like, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. It's like on a good day, I know like 0.001% of everything there is to know and understand. On the best day.
yes, exactly that. Exactly that. Now, Daniel, in the show notes, we will link to all the ways in which people can connect with you, contact you, and be in your field. I have one final question before we wrap this up. And to you, what is the meaning of life?
What is oh, geez, that's a big one. The meaning of life for me, I don't know whether there is a be all end all answer to that question. It comes back down to what I spoke about in the four internal pillars in the soul set. And for me, the meaning of life, what it is at the moment, and it changes forever. I think the meaning for me and what I'm seeking meaning in each moment is the meaning for my life. And the more I tap into that, more meaning I discover. And right now, it's really collaborating, it's connecting, it's empowering, it's just hanging out and creating really epic experiences. Success for me is, it doesn't really matter whether I achieve something or I fail at something or whatever the outcome is, as long as I learned and I grew and I look back on it and go, that was worth doing, that was worth fighting for. And I go to bed like feeling like I accomplished something. And that brings me so much joy just to connect with that every day. It gives me pleasure to wake up in the morning and start my next day. So maybe it's simple. I think it is. I just live by that. And it seems to be working for me at this stage in my life. Maybe it will change in the future.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being such an incredible guest on the Enlighten podcast, Daniel.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I hope we can get to catch up again at some time in the future.
I think so. We've got so many more like areas that we can dive into and chat about. So yes, I'll definitely have to have you back. Thanks, Daniel.
For sure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlighten podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.